he's talking about there's more footage. There's 140 hours that he has, and each episode was only maybe an hour, I think. There was 4 episodes, so there's at least 130 something more hours that he hasn't edited or produced.
For some reason, Diddy, around the time of his arrest, thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be exonerated later, so I'm going to film all this, and then I can use it in my big comeback later when I'm not in jail. Didn't work out the way he thought, and it turns out he went to jail for a few years. All right, he didn't get the full amount, but he still got a few years. And 50 Cent somehow managed to pay for the footage off of the videographer. Probably Diddy's worst nightmare, this. It's got to be up there. Now, we're going to get into what's in the actual documentary, and hell, it's something.
Anything that surprised you from that footage?
The footage, well, I mean, it was really interesting to see his last days of freedom, and what was sort of important to him. Obviously, there's phone calls with his attorneys, with his team. It was very interesting to watch a man who's known for his brand presence. He has a really amazing knack for marketing and all of that, and how he was sort of taking that into account and how he was coming off to the public, in the days leading up to his arrest and indictment.
Like 3 or 4 pictures in the documentary that I've seen of myself. Some people say they saw more, but I know three different times where I was certain places that you could actually see me in the
interview didn't wake up to a normal headline this time. It woke up to whispers, quiet at first, then loud enough to shake timelines, comment sections, and group chats all at once. Fans are shocked, insiders are suddenly silent, and one familiar name is back at the center of controversy: Gene Deal. A man who has spoken before, but this time, according to online reports, what he's hinting at feels bigger, darker, and far more unsettling. People aren't talking about what was shown, they're talking about what wasn't. Rumors are spreading that over 130 hours of footage connected to Diddy exists somewhere beyond the Netflix documentary. Footage that never aired. Footage that was allegedly too sensitive, too risky, too dangerous to make it on screen. Emotions ran high as viewers started rewatching the documentary with a different lens, noticing gaps, abrupt cuts, moments that felt rushed or strangely softened. Fans are asking the same question over and over again. If there was so much material, why did we only see a fraction of it? Why did certain scenes feel edited with surgical precision? And why are people who were once very vocal now suddenly choosing their words carefully? Social media is buzzing with speculation, not facts, not confirmations, just a growing sense that the story we were shown might not be the whole story. According to online chatter, Gene Deal didn't make bold accusations. Instead, he spoke in that familiar indirect way that leaves room for interpretation.
Around the time of his arrest, thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be exonerated later, so I'm going to film all this, and then I can use it in my big comeback later when I'm not in jail. Didn't work out the way he thought, and it turns out he went to jail for a few years. All right, he didn't get the full amount, but he still got a few years. And 50 Cent somehow managed to pay for the footage off of the videographer. Probably Diddy's worst nightmare, this. It's got to be up there. Now, we're going to get into what's in the actual documentary, and hell.
We need the core theme to be, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong on any front.
By the way, these conversations, the lawyer had no idea he was recording them. So when the lawyer's like, yeah, we need everyone to believe you did nothing wrong, it kind of takes away from when the lawyer is out in public saying, yeah, my client is completely innocent, and now he's showing the behind the scenes where he clearly didn't think he was very innocent. So not Diddy's smartest move, however.
He talked about footage existing, about cameras always being present, about how documentation can protect you until it doesn't. And that was enough, because when someone with first-hand access suggests there's more beneath the surface, fans lean in. Emotions ran high as reactions poured in. Some viewers felt betrayed, claiming the documentary felt incomplete. Others defended Netflix, saying legal limits exist for a reason. And then there are those who believe something far more complicated is unfolding behind closed doors. The family was left divided in public opinion. Supporters argued this was responsible storytelling. Critics insisted it was strategic silence. And right in the middle of it all is one chilling idea. What if the most explosive moments were never meant to be seen? Not because they didn't exist, but because they were too revealing, too personal, too powerful. And now, as these reports continue to circulate, one thing is clear. The conversation has shifted. It's no longer about what we watched, it's about what might still be hidden. The moment the documentary finished, something strange happened. People didn't rush to talk about what they had just seen. Instead, they went quiet. Then slowly, almost nervously, questions started to surface. Fans replayed scenes. Commentators paused clips. Creators leaned into their microphones and said the same thing in different ways. Something feels missing. Not missing as in forgotten, but missing as in intentionally left out. Online discussions began circulating around one detail that refused to go away: the amount of footage. According to reports being discussed everywhere, the material used in the documentary was only a small fraction of what was actually recorded. People familiar with the situation started throwing out numbers: dozens of hours, then over 100, then a specific figure that stuck: more than 130 hours that never made it to screen. Fans are shocked not because of what they saw, but because of what they now believe they didn't. This is where the tension starts to rise. Because the footage wasn't filmed years ago in some distant era, the reports claim it was recorded in the most sensitive window possible, days before everything collapsed, days before legal pressure turned into arrests and headlines, days before public confidence turned into panic. According to online conversations, cameras were there during meetings, calls, private moments, not staged interviews, not carefully planned confessionals, but raw, unfiltered access. Emotions ran high as people began speculating why someone would document themselves during such a dangerous time. Some fans believe it was confidence, others believe it was denial, and some say it was strategy. The idea being circulated is that this footage was never meant to hurt, it was meant to protect, meant to show control, meant to preserve a version of events that could be used later, a comeback story, a redemption arc, the kind of narrative that turns pressure into triumph. But the story doesn't stop there, because once footage exists, control becomes fragile. Ownership matters, agreement matter, loyalty matters, and according to the reports being discussed, that is exactly where things started to unravel. Whispers suggest that not everyone involved felt taken care of. Payments were delayed, promises blurred, trust thinned, and in moments
like that, footage changes meaning. It stops being protection and starts becoming leverage. Fans watching from the outside began connecting dots. Certain scenes in the documentary feel carefully trimmed, conversations cut short, reactions implied rather than shown, moments that feel like they should go deeper but don't. Viewers describe it as polished but restrained, dramatic but cautious. And now, with claims that so much more exists, that restraint feels intentional rather than accidental. Reactions from supporters and critics couldn't be more divided. Some argue this is responsible editing, that legal lines exist and platforms have to protect themselves. Others insist this was a strategic decision, not to tell the full story, but to tell the safest one. The family was left divided in public opinion. Defenders call it professionalism, skeptics call it silence dressed as storytelling. And then there's the role of outsiders, not people on screen, but people around the footage. Producers, directors, intermediaries, names that don't appear in the documentary but are now being discussed in comment sections and live streams. Fans are shocked by the idea that control over such sensitive material could shift hands, that something filmed with one intention could end up serving another. According to the circulating narrative, the documentary wasn't just a project, it was a battleground. Every clip chosen, every moment excluded, every cut weighed against legal risk and public fallout. Viewers now believe the final product wasn't about revealing everything, it was about revealing only what could survive scrutiny. Emotions ran high when Gene Deal's name entered the conversation again, not because of something he directly accused, but because of how he spoke: calm, measured, almost unsurprised. His tone, according to fans, suggested familiarity, not with rumors but with patterns. Cameras everywhere, documentation as habit, recording as control. His comments didn't confirm anything, but they planted a seed that refused to die. And once that seed was planted, speculation exploded. Fans started revisiting old interviews, old anecdotes, moments where
Because we see someone trying to pull the strings and talking about, he would say affecting, others would say manipulating the public views of the allegations.
I think that, one big theme of the series is to go behind the scenes to really understand how brilliant you could say Sean Combs is at marketing, at owning his narrative, controlling the narrative at all times. And so why would that stop, when his life is on the line? So I think that, on its face, that's what it is. But as you get deeper in the film, you start to realize, perhaps how some of these tactics, how they really came to present themselves, during the trial.
You show that his abilities, his early rise. Right. Alexandra, you also give time to victims of the alleged abuse. Some of the cases are in different.
The center of this story isn't just legal, it's psychological. The fear of losing control, the desperation to manage perception, the realization that money and influence don't guarantee silence forever. Viewers watching this unfold feel like they're witnessing the slow collapse of a carefully constructed image, not through one explosive reveal, but through 1,000 subtle omissions.
And the most unsettling part for many fans is this: nothing being discussed requires proof to feel powerful. It thrives on possibility, on implication, on the idea that what remains unseen might be more revealing than anything already shown. As these reports continue circulating, one thing becomes clear. The documentary didn't close the story, it opened a door. And behind that door, according to many, is footage that could change how everything is understood. The noise didn't start with an announcement, it started with reactions. Confused ones, hesitant ones. People finished watching the documentary and instead of feeling informed, they felt unsettled. Not because of what was shown, but because of what felt strangely absent. Fans replayed scenes, pausing at moments that seemed to tut too quickly. Conversations that felt like they were about to go somewhere suddenly stopped. Emotions ran high as viewers began saying the same thing across platforms. This feels edited in a very specific way. Online, creators started framing their commentary carefully. No one was making direct claims. No one was stating anything as fact. Instead, they repeated what was being reported, that there was far more footage than what the public saw, that the material used barely scratched the surface of what had been recorded. The number kept coming up again and again, more than 130 hours. That figure
alone was enough to send shockwaves through fan communities. People began asking why someone would record so much during such a volatile time. According to circulating reports, this footage wasn't captured in calm moments years earlier. It was filmed when pressure was peaking, when lawsuits were stacking up, when headlines were tightening, when freedom no longer felt guaranteed. Fans are shocked because this suggests a mindset that believed control could still be maintained through documentation. Some commentators believe the cameras were meant to tell a future story, a story of survival, of being misunderstood, of eventual vindication. Others believe it was about proof of conversations, proof of intent, proof of presence. But there's also a darker interpretation spreading, that recording everything wasn't confidence, it was fear that narratives were slipping away. Emotions ran high as people debated what documentation really means when power is threatened. In normal circumstances, cameras protect. In crisis, they expose. And once footage exists, it doesn't just belong to the person being filmed, it belongs to whoever controls it. That idea became the emotional core of the discussion. Fans also noticed something else. The tone of the documentary felt careful, not explosive, not chaotic. It felt controlled. Controlled pacing, controlled reveals, controlled language. Viewers expected emotional collapse, but instead saw restraint. And now, with reports suggesting much more dramatic material exists, that restraint feels deliberate rather than natural. The reactions of others only added fuel. Some former associates stayed silent. Others issued vague statements. Friends spoke carefully. Fans interpreted every pause, every word choice, every lack of comment as potential meaning. The family was left divided in public opinion. Some believed silence meant dignity. Others believed it meant damage control. Then the conversation shifted from what was shown to who wasn't. Not named directly, not accused, just missing. Viewers pointed out how certain relationships were referenced without detail, how some eras were glossed over, how some interactions felt implied rather than explored. Again, no one was stating anything outright. They were reacting to what felt absent. Gene Deal's involvement changed the tone entirely, not because he made dramatic accusations, but because of how calmly he spoke. According to reports, his comments didn't sound speculative. They sounded familiar, as if this level of documentation was normal, routine, expected. Fans latched onto that detail. If cameras were always around, then the idea of unseen footage stopped sounding exaggerated. Emotions ran high as people revisited older interviews and stories. Moments that once felt casual now felt intentional. Jokes about being recorded, references to tapes, mentions of documentation that had been brushed off at the time. Suddenly, those details carried weight. Fans are shocked by how easily things they once ignored now feel important. Another layer of tension emerged when reports suggested that control over the footage may have shifted. Not stolen, not leaked in some dramatic sense, but sold, transferred, exchanged. The idea that financial disagreements or broken trust could lead to such sensitive material changing hands disturbed many viewers. It reframed the story from scandal to consequence. People started speculating about motivation, not facts, motivation. Why someone would sell footage, why someone else would acquire it, why a platform would choose restraint over full exposure. Each question fed the next, and with every unanswered question, the story grew larger. Emotions ran high when fans realized the documentary might not be the final word. It might be the beginning, a controlled introduction rather than a full reveal. The idea that more exists creates a permanent sense of incompleteness. No ending feels definitive anymore. And perhaps the most unsettling reaction is this: people no longer trust what they see at face value. Every cut is questioned, every omission analyzed. Viewers aren't just watching content anymore, they're interrogating it, asking what was removed, why it was removed, and who benefited from that decision.
This isn't about proving anything happened. It's about acknowledging that reports are sheeping perception, that conversation itself is now the story. The footage that wasn't shown has become more powerful than the footage that was. And as this discussion continues to spread, one thing becomes clear. Once people believe there is more, silence stops being neutral. It becomes part of the narrative. As the speculation grew louder, the focus slowly shifted from the documentary itself to the people reacting around it. Fans weren't just dissecting scenes anymore, they were watching responses. Who spoke quickly, who hesitated, who said nothing at all. Emotions ran high because silence started to feel intentional, not
Empty, but calculated. Every delayed response became a story of its own. Online discussions kept returning to one unsettling idea. If this footage was recorded during such a sensitive period, then the emotions captured would not have been performative. They would have been raw. Fear doesn't rehearse. Panic doesn't polish its words. And according to the reports circulating, some of the unseen moments allegedly showed exactly that. Not a confident public figure, but someone scrambling to hold the narrative together as pressure closed in from every direction. Fans are shocked by the contrast between the calm tone of the released documentary and the chaos they now imagine exists beyond it. Viewers expected to see cracks. Instead, they saw composure. They expected desperation. Instead, they saw calculation. And that contrast made people uneasy, because when reality feels smoother than rumor, curiosity intensifies rather than fades. Reactions from close circles only deepened the tension. Some friends defended the editing choices, saying responsible storytelling requires restraint. Others hinted that what was cut might have crossed lines no platform wanted to approach. Again, nothing confirmed, nothing denied, just carefully worded statements that seemed designed to say as little as possible while sounding complete. The emotional conflict at the heart of this story began to take shape. On one side, the desire to control how history remembers you. On the other, the reality that once something is recorded, control becomes temporary. Viewers began debating whether filming everything was a move of genius or arrogance. Some said it showed foresight. Others said it showed overconfidence. But nearly everyone agreed on one thing. Once the footage existed, it became a liability waiting for the right moment. Fans also began focusing on the alleged timing of certain recordings. According to reports, some conversations happened when legal advice was still being shaped, when strategies were still being debated, when outcomes were still uncertain. The idea that these moments were captured on camera disturbed many people, not because it proved anything, but because it suggested a belief that nothing could go wrong. Emotions ran high when people discussed the power dynamics involved. Who holds footage like this? Who decides what is shown? Who decides what is buried? The documentary may have been framed as an exposé, but viewers now believe it was also a negotiation. Every clip shown balanced against potential consequences. Every omission weighed against potential fallout. Another dramatic twist emerged when fans began speculating about how the footage may have changed hands. The narrative spreading online suggests it wasn't a dramatic theft or secret leak. It was business, agreements, compensation, broken expectations. And in that version of events, the drama feels colder and more unsettling. Because it suggests that trust didn't explode, it eroded. The reactions of fans turned emotional. Some felt sympathy, others felt anger. Many felt betrayed. They believed they were shown a version of events designed to feel complete, while leaving the most uncomfortable truths untouched. The family was left divided not just in opinion, but in emotion. Some wanted everything released, regardless of consequences. Others feared what full exposure might unleash. Viewers began asking deeper questions about motive, not about guilt or innocence, but about strategy. Why record legal discussions? Why preserve moments of vulnerability? Why believe that documentation would ultimately save rather than harm? Some fans believe it was about future leverage. Others believe it was about ego. The idea that one could outsmart the system by owning the record of it. Emotions ran high as commentators pointed out how the documentary subtly emphasized control. Controlled posture, controlled tone, controlled environments. Even scenes meant to feel tense were framed with distance. Viewers now wonder if that distance was intentional, a way to soften what couldn't be denied without showing what couldn't be defended. The involvement of people who were once on the inside added another layer of drama. Their reactions didn't feel surprised, they felt resigned, as if this outcome was inevitable. Fans latched onto that energy. When someone reacts without shock, it suggests familiarity, not with rumors, but with patterns. Another twist that fueled discussion was the idea that the footage was originally meant to tell a very different story. Not collapse, but triumph. Not exposure, but redemption. Fans imagined a future version where the same clips would have been edited to show resilience under pressure rather than fear under scrutiny.
That realization made the current situation feel almost ironic. Emotions ran high as people debated whether the footage itself is dangerous or whether it's the possibility of its release that holds power. Sometimes the threat matters more than the
Act. The knowledge that something exists can control behavior just as effectively as showing it, and many viewers now believe that is exactly what is happening. Social media amplified every rumor. Every live stream dissected tone and phrasing. Every reaction video fed the algorithm's hunger for speculation. The story grew not because of new information, but because of unresolved tension. Unanswered questions multiplied faster than answers ever could. Fans are shocked by how quickly trust eroded. Not just trust in individuals, but trust in storytelling itself. Viewers began questioning documentaries as a format, asking whether they reveal truth or curate perception, whether they expose power or protect it behind careful editing. And through all of this, one emotional thread remains constant: fear of the unknown. Not fear of what has already been shown, but fear of what might still exist. Footage locked away, unseen, unverified, powerful simply because it has not yet surfaced. As this narrative continues to circulate, it pulls viewers deeper into a psychological drama, not one defined by clear villains or heroes, but by control slipping away inch by inch. And in that slow loss of control, people believe the real story is unfolding, not on screen, but in the spaces between what was shown and what was withheld. As conversations kept evolving, the attention slowly moved away from the documentary and toward the atmosphere surrounding it. People weren't just reacting to content anymore, they were reacting to energy. Something about the way everyone was moving felt tense, interviews felt guarded, statements felt rehearsed. Emotions ran high because it seemed like too many people were choosing caution at the same time. Fans are shocked by how carefully words are being chosen now, not just by the main figures, but by commentators, associates, and even media outlets. Phrases are softened, claims are framed as reports, speculation is wrapped in disclaimers. This careful language has become part of the drama itself. When everyone suddenly speaks carefully, it suggests that the stakes are higher than usual. Online, viewers started revisiting the documentary with fresh eyes. Scenes that once felt complete now felt incomplete. Moments that once seemed explanatory now felt evasive. People paused at facial expressions, at silences, at reactions that felt slightly delayed. Emotions ran high as fans convinced themselves that the real story was hiding in the margins rather than the center. One recurring discussion point focused on emotional contrast. The footage shown portrayed control, composure, deliberate pacing, but the reports being discussed paint a very different picture of what may exist elsewhere. They describe stress, paranoia, impatience, moments where the narrative slips and fear shows through. Fans are shocked by the idea that such emotionally raw material could exist alongside the polished version that was released. This contrast led to another dramatic twist in the public conversation. The idea that editing didn't just shape the story, it protected it. Viewers began debating whether the documentary was meant to expose wrongdoing or simply establish a version of events that could survive legal and public pressure. That debate divided audiences sharply. Emotions ran high when people began discussing the ethical line between storytelling and self-preservation. Is it responsible to withhold footage if it could harm people beyond the subject? Or is withholding itself a form of manipulation? There are no easy answers, and that uncertainty has kept the conversation alive. Fans also began speculating about unseen interactions, not dramatic confrontations but subtle exchanges, moments where tone shifts, where frustration leaks out, where control is briefly lost. These imagined moments have become almost as vivid in people's minds as actual footage. The power of suggestion has taken over where evidence stops. Another layer of drama emerged when commentators started focusing on the psychological toll of being recorded constantly. According to reports, cameras weren't occasional, they were constant. That level of documentation changes behavior. It creates performance even in private moments. Fans are shocked by the idea that someone could live inside a self-created surveillance bubble and believe it was protection rather than exposure. The emotional conflict here feels deeply human. The need to be seen as right. The fear of being misunderstood. The belief that if everything is recorded, truth will eventually prevail. But the public is now questioning whether truth survives recording or gets buried under interpretation. Reactions from industry insiders have been particularly telling. Many haven't denied the existence of additional footage. They simply avoid discussing it. That avoidance has fueled speculation more than any statement could. Silence, in this case, feels loud, calculated, intentional. Emotions ran high when Fans began connecting this situation to a broader pattern. The idea that power often relies on documentation, that influence is reinforced by records, capes, receipts. But once those records escape control, the same tools that protected power become weapons against it. This framing has resonated deeply with viewers. People also started questioning motives behind restraint. Some believe platforms are protecting themselves, Others believe they are protecting others. The absence of certain narratives has become a story of its own. Not accusations, just gaps. And in the world of celebrity drama, gaps invite imagination. Fans are shocked by how much of the story exists without confirmation, yet it feels real because of how it aligns with behavior, the guarded responses, the strategic silence, the sudden emphasis on legality. All of it suggests awareness of risk. Another emotional twist came when people imagined the future. What happens if nothing else is released? Does the story fade, or does the mystery grow larger over time? Many believe the latter, because once the public believes there is more, the absence becomes permanent tension. Every year that passes without release makes the unseen footage feel heavier. Emotions ran high as viewers debated whether the footage itself matters anymore. Maybe it's not about what's on it. Maybe it's about what it represents: a loss of control, a fracture in trust, a reminder that no narrative is fully owned once others hold the evidence. The discussion has also shifted toward responsibility. Who is responsible for shaping the public's understanding? The subject, the platform, the producers, the audience? Each group points to another, and in that loop, accountability dissolves. Fans are shocked by how quickly sympathy and suspicion can coexist. Some feel empathy for someone facing overwhelming pressure. Others feel frustration at what they see as manipulation. Many feel both at once. That emotional contradiction is what keeps them watching, commenting, speculating. As the narrative continues to grow, it becomes less about specific events and more about perception. How stories are told, how images are curated, how silence can speak louder than words. Viewers are no longer passive consumers. They're investigators of tone, intent, and omission. And perhaps the most unsettling realization is this: even if no new footage ever surfaces, the belief that it exists has already changed the story forever. It has shifted trust, reframed interpretation, altered how every past and future statement is received. The drama now lives in uncertainty, in what might be hidden, in what could be revealed, in the knowledge that control once thought permanent is always temporary. And as this uncertainty continues to dominate the conversation, the audience remains suspended in a story without resolution, waiting to see whether silence holds or eventually breaks. By this point, the conversation had grown far beyond the documentary itself. It wasn't about scenes or editing anymore. It was about trust. Trust in storytelling. Trust in platforms. Trust in the idea that what audiences have shown is even close to the full picture. Fans are shocked at how quickly that trust seemed to fracture once the reports about unseen footage took hold. The emotional center of the story shifted again, this time toward fear. Not fear of exposure, but fear of unpredictability. When footage exists but remains unreleased, it creates a permanent sense of instability. No one knows if it will surface tomorrow, next year, or never. And that uncertainty alone is powerful. It changes how people behave, how they speak, how they position themselves publicly. Emotions ran high as viewers began noticing how carefully everyone distanced themselves. Old allies spoke in generalities. Former friends referenced timelines instead of feelings. Media coverage leaned heavily on phrases like "reports suggest" and "sources claim." Nothing felt accidental. Everything felt measured. The family was left divided not only in opinion, but in how much they trusted what they were being told. One of the most dramatic shifts in public perception came when fans began questioning intent rather than outcome. Instead of asking what happened, they started asking why things were handled the way they were. Why release a documentary that feels restrained if you have access to something far more explosive? Why confirm the existence of unused footage without explaining what it contains? Why allow speculation to grow instead of shutting it down completely? Some believe this uncertainty is strategic, that ambiguity protects everyone involved. It allows platforms to claim responsibility while avoiding maximum fallout. It allows producers to generate attention without taking full risk. And it allows the subject of the documentary to remain partially undefined, neither fully exposed nor fully redeemed. Others see it differently. They believe restraint signals fear. Fear of Lawsuits, fear of backlash, fear of implicating others, fear of opening doors that can't be closed once certain images or conversations are released. Fans are shocked by how often fear, rather than truth, appears to be driving decisions behind the scenes. Another emotional layer emerged as people began empathizing with the psychological toll of living under constant recording. The idea that someone believed documenting everything would save them reveals a deep need for control. Control over narrative, control over memory, control over how history will judge them. But the irony, according to many viewers, is that that same documentation now threatens that control. Emotions ran high when commentators suggested that the footage no longer even needs to be released to have impact. Its mere existence has already reshaped perception. Every statement is now heard with suspicion. Every denial feels incomplete. Every explanation feels like it's working around something rather than through it. Fans are shocked by how this situation reflects a larger pattern in celebrity culture. Power often comes with the illusion of invincibility. Cameras become tools of dominance rather than accountability. Documentation feels like insurance, but once power weakens, those same tools reverse their function. They stop protecting and start threatening. The reactions of the audience themselves have become part of the story. Some demand transparency at any cost. Others warn against voyeurism. Some believe everything should be released regardless of damage. Others argue that certain lines should never be crossed. The comment sections are filled with emotional arguments that reveal how deeply invested people have become. What makes this situation especially unsettling is that there is no clear resolution in sight. No announcement of additional footage, no confirmation that it will ever be released, no denial that it exists, just silence. And silence, in this case, feels intentional, a pause that keeps everyone guessing. Emotions ran high when fans realized that silence benefits everyone differently. It protects platforms legally. It protects producers strategically. It protects subjects psychologically, at least temporarily. But it leaves the audience suspended, waiting, questioning, filling in gaps with imagination. The unresolved nature of the story has turned it into something larger than a documentary. It has become a case study in narrative control, in how stories are shaped not only by what is shown, but by what is withheld, and how power operates when it senses vulnerability. Fans are shocked by how quickly the focus moved from allegations to architecture, from what happened to how stories are constructed, from behavior to perception. That shift signals a deeper cultural moment. People no longer just want answers. They want to understand the systems that decide which answers are allowed. Another emotional twist lies in the realization that even if more footage is never released, its shadow will remain. Future interviews will be scrutinized, future projects questioned, future narratives doubted. The unseen footage has become a common reference point, an invisible standard against which everything else is measured. This is why the story refuses to fade. It isn't fueled by new revelations, it's fueled by uncertainty, by the idea that something significant exists just out of reach, and as long as that idea survives, the conversation continues. In the end, this is no longer just about a documentary or about one individual. It's about who controls truth when influence weakens. It's about how quickly protection turns into exposure. It's about the uncomfortable realization that cameras don't just record moments, they record power dynamics. Fans are left with questions that don't have clean answers. Was restraint responsible or strategic? Was silence protective or deceptive? Was documentation foresight or hubris? None of these questions can be resolved without seeing what remains unseen. And so, the story settles into its most dangerous form. Not confirmed, not denied, just hovering, waiting. Because once people believe there is more to see, the absence itself becomes the loudest statement of all. Now, this is where the story pauses, but the conversation doesn't end. Because everything you just heard isn't about proving something happened or didn't happen. It's about the reports people are reacting to, the questions fans are asking, and the silence that keeps getting louder. And that's where you come in. You've seen how viewers are split. Some believe the documentary showed enough. Others believe it barely showed anything hell. Some think holding footage back is responsible. Others feel it's a way to control the narrative without ever fully confronting it. Emotions ran high on every side, and there's still no clear answer in sight. So, now we want to hear from you. Do you think leaving so much footage unseen was the right move, or do you
believe the public deserves to know everything once a story goes this far? Do you feel silence protects people, or does it only create more suspicion? And if unreleased footage really exists, should it stay hidden forever? Or does its existence alone already change everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't just react, explain how you see it, because every perspective adds another layer to this story. If you think the truth is being protected, say why. If you think it's being controlled, tell us what makes you feel that way. This conversation only keeps growing when different voices speak up. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure you hit the like button. It helps the video reach more people who are also trying to understand what's really going on behind the scenes. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. We're covering stories like this as they unfold, focusing on the reactions, the reports, and the unanswered questions everyone's talking about. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because whether more information comes out or not, this story is far from over. And the moment something shifts,